Welcome back to theGrio. It's official. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has banned all diversity, equity, and inclusion funding from state colleges and universities. He signed a bill into law on Monday. DeSantis says that curriculum about race and LGBTQ issues does not align with the classical subjects and issues that he believes colleges should be focusing on. During the signing ceremony, DeSantis told students who were concerned about the move to go to college in another state. The Florida Department of Education is following Governor DeSantis' lead. Earlier this month, the State Department of Education released its list of approved books for social studies courses, and noticeably absent was a chapter about the creation of Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd at the hands of now convicted former police officer Derek Chauvin. Community leaders argue that the new slate of books is an attempt to whitewash social studies and relevant points of history. The board argued the list aligns with state standards. Historians and black community leaders, they're not going to stand by and let this assault on race and history go unchallenged. Today is the 69th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, which ended segregation in schools. But DeSantis and other lawmakers are engaged in an assault that could lead to the miseducation of black and brown children. It's the catalyst for a 24-hour teach-in, which is underway right now online. Joining me now are Hasan Jeffries. He's an author and history professor at The Ohio State University. He's also the brother of Congressman and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. We're also joined by Kellie Carter-Jackson, historian, author, and professor at Wellesley College. I want to thank you both for joining me. You're both planning to attend this virtual event. You're both slated to speak. Hasan, I'll start with you. What are you hoping to accomplish with this thing?
Well, several things. First, it is important to draw attention to what's going on in Florida and in many other states across the nation. This attempt, as you pointed out, to whitewash America's past, as well as to lessen and ignore the significant efforts to change American society for the better today. And so on the one hand, it's just simply drawing attention to the problematic politics that are occurring in Florida and elsewhere. But this is a teaching. And so in addition to shining a light on the troubles, the intention of this event, of this gathering, is to educate, to inform. As you pointed out, we run the risk of miseducating another generation. And certainly we want to draw attention to those areas where that miseducation is most likely to take place, to make sure that people are aware of the potential harm that is being done by pursuing this anti-truth, anti-honesty, anti-education approach to K through 12 and university teaching and education.
You know, this is such a stunning move. Maybe not in the moment. Nothing DeSantis does shocks me. But if you would have told me 10 years ago this is where we would be, this is the type of legislation, Kellie, that we'd be seeing, I'd be stunned. What has happened?
I mean, I think in some sense, we are pulling on old playbooks. When I think about, I'm a historian of the 19th century. I study slavery. I think about how the slaves were not allowed to read, that they were denied literacy. And that was intentional because they understood that knowledge was power, that when you had literacy, when you had the ability to be able to read or write, that you couldn't just be told what to do. And I think DeSantis realizes that if he can strip the textbooks, if he can erase or marginalize the history, then he can keep people unempowered. And so I think this teaching is just so important because what it's going to do is inform the people, but it's also going to empower the people who know this history and want this history taught in the classrooms. I mean, we've seen time and time again how white backlash is cyclical. Every time you get a little bit of progress, you get a little bit of a setback. And while, we might not have anticipated that it would take this shape or take this form, I think people are on the ground and they're ready to fight back because we've seen this before.
Hasan, this idea of fighting back is key. What would success look like in this struggle if you're victorious?
Well, certainly rolling back these very draconian educational measures. I mean, in the long run, the long game here, the long play is to revert back to the point where we were making substantial progress. As you pointed out, this was inconceivable just a few years ago. This is a response to what had been building, the DEI work, the the classroom work that had been going on and quite effective in terms of exposing new generations of people to history as it actually happened. And so before we can move forward, first we got to remove some of these new obstacles and barriers that have been put before us. And so that's just not an education goal, that's a political goal. And so part of it is, we got to talk seriously about politics and political power, and removing those who are in office, beginning with Ron DeSantis and the Republican Congress state legislators around him that have enabled his authoritarian anti-education efforts, and think strategically about how to do that. So it's education about what's going on in the classroom, but it's also what's taking place at the ballot box and beyond.
Those are two important points. I want to go to Kellie for one of them. Kellie, what's happening in the classroom? The right is saying that this is an attack, not what they're doing, but what you all have been doing, you crazy liberal professors. This is an attack on the classics. This is an attack on good old-fashioned education. And one of your, I guess, former colleagues, I'll say, I'm thinking about Mary Lefkowitz from Wellesley back in the day. I'm thinking about 20, 30 years ago when there were debates over Afrocentricity and there were debates over the canon and the culture wars of that era. They were saying that America is going to lose something if you people keep putting in this bad history, this wayward curriculum, these unorthodox tactics. Are we having the same fight again, or is it somehow different?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that we have taken a lot of these old conversations and we have revived them. But I think, all of this propaganda, these scare tactics, this fear mongering, I mean, one, it's irrational, but also it's completely unfactual. You just can't You just cannot teach American history without talking about slavery. You can't teach American history without talking about Jim Crow and the civil rights movement and the long freedom struggle. You can't teach American history and not talk about police brutality. The truth is that Black people have made such contributions at every moment, at every turning point, at every war in American history. And this is not about inclusion or exclusion. This is about erasure. This is about not allowing people's stories to be told. And it goes beyond African Americans. Ron DeSantis is also trying to get rid of women in gender studies. He's also trying to push back on LGBTQ rights. So I realize that what starts out as something in the classroom about African American history has legs, and it manages to come into all these other different topics. And so we really have to be in solidarity and pushing back against this, because he's not just going after one group, he's going after everyone that he wants to silence.
Hasan, House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who I believe has he taken a position on this issue? What is he saying that needs to be done about the whitewashing of history?
Well, I always hesitate to speak for him, but I will say we have had a number of conversations about this issue over the years, and his position, like my position, has not changed. That it is critical that we teach about America's past honestly and openly. That it is critical that we talk about today in today's classroom, and that it is critical that we have honest and frank discussions about democracy, about empowering everyday people, about ensuring that the least of us are included at the table when devising and developing curriculum. And so, I feel confident in saying this, that he is with us in our efforts. All right. To make sure.
I think you might be right. We got to run, Hasan. We got to run, Kellie. I appreciate it, but I want to thank you both for joining me. Your comments, your analysis is incredibly necessary, incredibly important. And if you want to join virtually what they're doing, go to teachingfortruth.org. The first speaker started about an hour ago, but it will be running all night. Next up, a starvation cult in Kenya has left hundreds dead. I'll give you the latest update right after the break. Plus, a Star Trek actress takes matters into her own hands to put her own stamp on a character's style. She joins us right after this.